All right, welcome back to the first game of GPD. Have Scribble versus Zangy. Let me pull up the decks because I just did the deck list stream, but apparently my short-term memory is horrible, so I don't remember what decks they're on.
Scribble is on blue-white activate abilities control, and Zangy is on Abzan, Tabia, Death Shadow.
That's a lot of words in a deck name.
So it goes.
So they're both low decks, right? So this is going to be a fun game to commentate, where your definition of fun depends on how much free time you have.
It's only like almost 10 o'clock. It's probably like around midnight for Zangy, so I'm a little worried on that front. But Zangy keeps weird sleep schedules, so it all works out.
What about Scribble? They're on the other side of the world, right?
Yeah, Scribble's Australian, so
They're
they're
Australian.
they're fine.
So
All right,
would you
so this is a good
say
hand for Scribble. I think you keep this.
would you say Scribble is favored right now?
Just with the hands, or in terms of like how awake they're going to be by the end of the match?
I was going to say the first one, but now that they actually drew their hand, you can use the second one to judge.
Um, yeah, so I think broadly speaking, this matchup is probably pretty good for Scribble. Scribble's deck seems really good at beating people who are trying to go super late, and Zangy doesn't really have any tools to rush Scribble down. It's definitely possible for Zangy to like use resources in a smart way and nickel and dime Scribble out of this game, but I definitely would be more comfortable on Scribble's side of the field than Zangy's.
Did Zane just keep a hand with no plays until turn 3?
Yes.
Did they do that?
In their deck, kinda in this matchup, like a lot of their plays before turn 3 are like interaction spells, so that's not really where
Oh,
they want to be.
that's good.
Yeah, I suppose it like, but embodied soul doesn't really matter yet. So
This thing can blow up one of Scribble's enchantments. So it'll
Death's
become
Widow
relevant.
being a answer that Scribble can't counter is also like pretty
Oh, yeah,
huge.
cool. So should you save that thing for, or should you try to run out the uncountable thing first?
I don't think it matters. I think you probably pith wilt because you don't have a 2 mana play otherwise, and you can like use your mana efficiently. But I don't know like because Zangy doesn't have a good way to like burn through a bunch of life really quickly to hard cast this Death's Widow. Because like even if Zangy loses 5 life to this Nebula, there's still another 5 life off from getting anywhere.
Does the opponent have any crucified targets?
Embodied Soul. I think at this point you now just like literally don't you just hold on to the pith wilt because the pith wilt can go after the non-creature win cons, whereas you can now use Crucify to answer the embodied soul.
Yeah.
And it
Notes that wait, the same one oh they do run Vein Drinker. Okay, so they didn't draw Vein Drinker though.
they run 2 copies of Vein Drinker. Like let's be clear here.
Well, look, I think they're more likely to draw a Vein Drinker than I am to draw a Dream Sight Well in a 140 card deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's totally possible. Scribble cycles Bustling Harbor, and then he's going to not use
Okay,
Crucify.
Zangy, I mean I think this is reasonable. Like if Scribble is tapping out, you may as well.
Is there any
I
other Crucify targets later on?
No. There's a Johnny tokens, I guess. Oh, there's Intrepid. So there's like some intermittent ones here and there, but I don't think there's any that you're super excited to hit. But also, like, I get the appeal of spending mana efficiently and trying to get something in through counter magic. I don't think that card mattered too much in the kind of immediate sense.
Then
So
he's thinking about Nebula numbers
the answer has to just be 5, right? Why would it not be 5?
because it's not very natural to pay 5 for a Nebula, so you wouldn't think about it, right?
Zangy has plenty of Death Shadow experience and has a Death Shadow in hand. Like
Yeah, but
the
this
answer is it can get the 6 more life lost through like shock fetch and some pain lands, but yeah.
life is a resource, so you might as well use it as a resource. In which case, don't spend it needlessly.
Nope, that's not. If life is a resource, you may as well spend it. Because like it's not like Zangy has a bunch of other things to like that are high value ways to spend life, right? Like Princess's Plea is pretty good, but that's kind of it. And you need to be low on life for Herald of Oblivion or Death's Widow to be like castable cards. So I think we're gonna see Zangy jam Cecilius. Oh well, because Scribble has counter magic, or Scribble's representing it at least. you have Anapraxia's maneuver to recast whatever or to recur whatever you cast. Tabia is like a lot less exciting to resolve successfully compared to Cecilius, but I think that just means that we're going to see a Tabia cast, especially because Cecilius can pick the Tabia back up.
Well, it wouldn't be able to pick it back up if it gets exiled.
That's true. I think we're more likely to see Scribble burn the counter magic because it's, taxing and conditional than out of body yet, but maybe.
They fetches and then starts thinking about which one to play. Classic. Actually, Pip, so when you're playing your decks, when you're playing decks with fetch lands, do you usually plan out your entire turn before you start fetching, or do you fetch half and then start planning halfway because you realize that you missed something?
I'll generally try to plan before I fetch, ideally. But I mean, obviously, sometimes you have a moment of going, "Oh, wait, never mind." So Scribble definitely just fires off the Cosmic Sinkhole here, right?
Cosmic
Yeah,
for 1. I like
good
how
enough.
Terraformer's Gold lets them Cosmic for 3. Oh, Nebula lets them Cosmic for 5. Or can they? No, they can't yet. They can technically Cosmic for 4 by paying 5 mana if they really want to. Nope, they're not going for it. Then he draws Weeping Lotus. Not the best time to draw. Actually, it might let Then pay for stuff, like pay through a counter spell, if it
Yeah,
makes enough tokens.
weeping. Get it? Get the joke?
Ah,
I wonder if we'll see an end step Anapraxias to try to recur the Tabia or not.
that feels. Actually, does Scribble have any graveyard stuff that's worth Anapraxia?
Um, I don't. I'm not seeing any at a glance. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, might as well jam End Step Anapraxia then. Actually, no, End Step Anapraxia's second mode makes it harder to cast your Death Shadows, funnily enough. But you can crucify the thing that you pick up with Anapraxias to, get your life back down again. Just pass. Scribble doesn't have anything they can do end of turn, so they also just pass. Mirrorgate. Does Mirrorgate do anything?
No,
Does any play Heart? They don't, right? They're not a Heart deck.
no. There's no like utility lands in this mana base. It's just all mana fixing.
Actually, they have Corpse Bed.
But we just established that Scribble doesn't have any graveyard things.
It's better than naming anything else with this, I feel like.
Nope, I think you should name Nebula so your opponent can't dome themselves for large chunks of life.
Good point. Yeah, that's like the only good option to name. It seems like
Yeah,
it.
I mean, if you don't have a good thing to name, you should probably just like not name one of your opponent's lands because giving them better fixing is not a good idea.
Alright, yeah, if you name 2 off colors with Mirrorgate, then you can Cosmic Sinkhole for 5 on curve.
You unfortunately can't name two off colors because you name one and then your opponent names one.
Okay, but you hope your opponent names the off color.
It's true.
Actually, you can just, but you can't, yeah. Then he thinks about the ETB resolving and lets it resolve. No, after the change, Mirrorgate just becomes really slow to resolve because both birds have to think.
Yeah. I think that the average player should be better at choosing colors.
Scribble takes some time choosing their color and the land to name. Let's see how long Zangy takes. Okay, never
No.
mind.
Yep, that is the correct move. Wait, why would Scribble choose blue? Scribble already has enough blue mana.
They don't want to.
They just don't care for the off-color stuff.
They should care about the off color stuff. I feel like.
I don't disagree.
Wait, Zangy, you named so Zangy names off color. So Scribble ends up having off color anyways.
Interesting.
Zangy should have named-
Also, the fact that the Nebula didn't pick a non-blue-white color is a little bit shocking. I feel like maybe Scribble isn't as used to playing Cosmic Sinkhole in two-color decks.
Yeah, especially after. Well, no, they've played for longer than the Cosmic Sinkhole nerf has been a thing.
Yeah.
Wave of Decay is completely dead here. Does Zang have any ways to loot? They jam Cecilius into known counter magic.
What's the known counter magic?
Look at Scribble. Do you think they don't have counter magic right now?
Oh, sure. That's still suspected counter magic. It's not known counter magic if you just think they have it.
Heavily suspected counter magic.
Yep.
And if it's not counter magic, it's probably removal. And Cosmic Cinco for 3.
Great. And I think you just wait. Like you don't want to force this Wave of Decay into another like potential Cosmic Sinkhole, and you're not really trying to overload Scribble in terms of mana.
They're just trying to run your opponent out of resources. I mean, Scribble hasn't drawn any of their enchantments yet, so that's pretty good for Zangy. Means that
Yeah,
Zangy
that's pretty important.
can like go card for card with Scribble.
in general, Scribble's deck doesn't have a lot of like burst draw spells. Like Scribble is really trying to top deck into specifically spiritual guidance or midnight dreary. Like a Johnny Enlightened is pretty good here. Hamley would let you wheel some cards away, but like there's not a lot of cantrips that Scribble could find or like other miscellaneous things.
Praxia gets countered with Foil Factor. Does any have anything left?
I mean, not in hand, but can still just randomly top deck into something. It's not like Scribble has a lot left either. Both players are kind of just sitting here.
All right, let's see what's any top decks. Oof, a land.
Yeah, that's about right.
Well, if Scribble also tops deck a land here, then they're about even. Oop. I think Zangy is in
Well,
trouble.
yeah, I mean, Scribble only gets one card off of this though before it just immediately bites it to a Death's Widow.
Yeah, but what else does Zangy have? I guess we could
I
see
mean,
the same for Scribble.
yeah, it's a 2-for-1. Like you're happy to get those 2-for-1s, but you're only going to get a 2-for-1 here.
Yeah, and when it comes to Modern Magic, basically every card's a 2-for-1 by itself.
Well, except for these players' decks. That's just not how each of them approach deck building this GP.
Maybe that's the problem here. This is why the game actually. This is why both players actually start running out of cards. Because if both players are just playing natural 2-for-1s, then nobody runs out of cards, and then we have a big game where nobody can
I
get
guess
on board.
I guess like Zangy does have a bunch of 2-for-1s. It just they require resolving things, which is not going super well right now.
Wave of Decay would be a 2-for-1 if Scribble had any targets. If there's Spiritual Guidance, that's Scribble activating Terraformer's Glove to draw a card.
Yep.
And there's Zangy blowing up the Spiritual Guidance with the Death Widow ability.
Goes to 11.
Still not enough to cast Death Widow if they drew another one.
But it's a nice 2-for-1 from Scribble to pick up.
Immediately draws into another land.
Yep.
Like Scribble just keeps getting screwed over by drawing a bunch of lands in a row. Every single game I've commentated Scribble in, when they're playing these sorts of control decks, they just, at least one game, they draw a bunch of lands in a row.
I would say that there are specific deck building decisions that Scribble makes that vastly more likely to happen to them than it does to other control players. And that's not necessarily even like a bad deck building. It's just that's the choices that you kind of end up making. Definitely does feel bad here that there's no like utility island to fetch. I know I was the one who told Scribble. I don't think that the utility islands are good in this format, but still awkward.
Yeah, Ares Split would be nice here.
Yeah.
I mean,
a little bit, because it would just immediately get crucified. But it's conceptually nice.
Scribble can totally support Ares Split in their mana base, right?
So this is Johnny Enlightened is very good.
Okay, Scribble's going to slam another Value Maker, and let's see if Zane can answer it.
I mean, the thing that's a little bit awkward is a Johnny 0. So a Johnny being on 0 is, or a Johnny zeroing is what you want because then he's immune to Pithwilt. Is not immune to a Death's Widow though, and I think if you're Zangy, you actually draw the card because I think you would like the game to be a little bit bigger than it currently is.
Yeah, and the thing is, okay, I think is Zane far behind enough that drawing from a Johnny is the only outfit that they have, because giving Scribble 2 cards is not something you want to do because it draws Scribble out of stuff.
I mean, so either Scribble drawing 1 card and you drawing 0 is equivalent to Scribble drawing 2 cards and you drawing 1.
Right.
The only difference is like Zangy has 1 Sicilius that can instantly KO this guy. I mean, I guess if it's at 0, the only answer that you have in your deck is like Letitia and Death's Widow killing it.
Yeah.
It's much more killable when it has an odd amount of loyalty, which is notable.
Johnny comes down. Zane's thinking. Is there anything for Zane to think about? Okay, they're just bluffing.
You definitely do want to do a little bit of bluffing here.
Seems like Scribble's zeroing the Johnny. Yep. Let's see if Zane draws. Does Zane know that Scribble might not be holding counter magic? Because I don't think Zane actually played any counterable spells recently, right?
No. I mean, Zangy, yeah, I agree with you. But Scribble only has like 7 counterspells, I think, in total. Yeah, Scribble has no 8 counterspells, and is already through 3 of them.
Zane refuses to draw.
I don't think that's unreasonable. It feels a little bad, but I don't think there's that much to it other than that.
Scribble draws Order Module, which they can't play out right now.
Why? Yeah, they're 1 mana short.
Wait, are they? It's They
Yeah,
have
it's 4 mana. Oh wait, no, there's 4 lands to play.
yeah,
Yeah, they can totally cast it. I think you just slam it and create 3 1/1s.
and that actually gives Zangy a target for all their spells again, so that's quite good for Zangy too.
I don't know if that's true, actually. I think those 3 1/1s kind of make you
They all
miserable.
die to your removal.
I mean, yeah, if you Wave of Decay and then Crucify, you can clear your way through them.
Yeah, like
But
what
Wave
else does Scribble have that needs removing?
then it's a 2 for 1 and it still is in play and can do other things.
The other modes don't do anything right now.
Right now, sure, but the non-land mode, like I I agree that Zangy can answer the tokens and should answer the tokens. I just don't think Zangy's happy to answer the tokens.
It's better than nothing, at least. I mean, at least they get to make use of their
I
deck cards.
disagree. I think Zangy would much rather Scribble do nothing here than cast Order Module.
All right, Zangy, you have to top deck something good here because Scribble's tapped out. Oof.
That is not it. I think this match is pretty over.
At least Zangy gets to board out all their creature removal in game 2. Actually, can Scribble punish Zangy for boarding out removal? No, right? Yeah. Zangy's bluffing to Scribble that they have something. They're oh, what? They're getting a bunch of life, but that puts them out of Death Shadow range.
Mm, yep, I'm not sure. I assume the answer just kind of boils down to Zangy is more capable of getting beaten to death by random tokens than they would like to be.
Even though, I mean, even then, I feel like Zangy should have at least split the mana between Wave of Decay and Weeping Lotus. Right? Like a second Weeping Lotus might as well, right? What mana sinks does Zangy even have? Doesn't seem like they have any mana sinks, so yeah, I guess the second Lotus is kind of useless, even if they played it out. Well, on the bright side, Scribble's drawing nothing but lands still.
I don't think you can complain about that when you drew like 2 threats. Like a Johnny and Order module's plenty.
They don't impact board right away.
They absolutely do. What they made tokens.
The tokens got removed. It's fine.
There's 1 token left and it's about to become a 2/2.
It's going to get removed like Crucify. It's fine.
I think one of the other questions here is I think if you downtick on a Johnny, you're a little too worried about it just like getting eaten.
He draws another land. Do they have any fetchable stuff?
Nope.
Okay.
No, nothing useful.
I think it's about time to kill the spirit because like it is gonna clock you down slowly. Cosmic Sinkhole. Okay. How they can still play a 5 cost to a Cosmic Sinkhole at this point, right? Yeah, I think they have enough mana for that. So Cosmic Sinkhole isn't the greatest thing in the world because it won't actually counter what it needs to.
Yeah, especially when Scribble just refused to. I mean, I guess there's 2 Terraformers Globes in play, so you can produce 4 colors, but I don't know why you can't produce 5.
Okay,
And
Alrata, that's something.
Yeah, I think this game's basically over.
Hey, kill the spirit. I mean, it's not over. Zane can still top deck a threat and slam it down through a Cosmic Sinkhole. Now, what's the best thing Zane
And
can
then
top
there's
deck?
there's 2 Event Horizons and a out of body experience.
Look, if the threat
I mean,
innately 2 for 1's on entry, then it's fine. You just have to draw another one on the turn afterwards.
Yeah, and I think Alralfa just kind of makes that not really viable. Like, Scribble is now going to start drawing 2 cards a turn, in addition to the Ajani putting them up on cards every turn. Yeah, that's not what you want to see.
This is sad. Both players are drawing nothing but lands.
One of these lands produces infinite cards, and the other one is Corpse Fed. Like, I don't think you can say both players are drawing lands when it's Ricky. Neither of them is a combo or aggro deck. That's what you're actually saying. You're saying, well, this is so sad. Neither player is killing each other on turn 4. Is this even Magic?
No, I don't usually kill my opponents on turn 4. I kill them on turn 7 after I ramp this 7 mana on turn 4.
Subtle differences.
Actually, no. Ramp Huff at its peak was able to kill people on turn 4 by getting Greenwood Outrider out on turn 4.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Terraform 12. That's a card draw. Johnny Zero. Let's see if I think Zane's kind of desperate now. Yeah, they're desperate enough to draw, and they actually draw into something useful. You know, if they started drawing earlier, this would have been different.
No, not really, because the draws just like accelerate the game by like a marginal amount because your opponent is drawing cards at the same rate that you are.
Yeah.
I just like what this Princess's Plea can answer the Order module, I guess, but it can't target the Ajani. It can't target the Alralfa.
Now Zane Crucify is a thing. Then you have a way to blow up lands.
I don't think so. No, isn't running a mirror gate either.
Should they be running mirror gates in their deck? I don't think the math supports it, right?
Probably. Like, could you run a land that enters the battlefield tap but taps for a mana of any color? Yes, because you're generally not doing a lot of early plays. Like, I'm sure it makes your matchup versus like hard aggro worse, but you could just like cut one of your spells and add a 24th land. Now, should you? That's a different question. But 4, 5, 6. So
They,
Zangy has 10 mana left over.
yeah, they can
So Scribble cannot Cosmic Sinkhole this one.
they can't event horizon it though.
True. But it does get to pick off an order module at least.
Feel that valuable though at this point in the game.
I mean, it means that the order module can't immediately hit the princess's plea.
Honestly, maybe you're happy if it happens because then you could blow up the order module for another ETB.
Which I don't think that gets you particularly anywhere.
It doesn't, but it's just thought that counts. Okay, Scribble's activating El Ratha now.
Yes.
They're about to discard their hand size next turn.
Yeah. I don't think you're too sad about that. Like, you just discard these cosmic sinkholes.
It would be funny if Scribble just start drawing 0 lands from now on.
I think that would make sense.
How many lands do they have out of their deck currently? Oops. It's another land.
Enough. So they have 13 lands in play or graveyard. There's 14th in hand. They run 26. So they are about where you would expect them to be when they are 28 cards deep into their deck.
And they have Spiritual Guidance now.
Yeah, which is going to immediately eat a Pithwelt, but you get another 2 for 1 here.
Those taking time to sync through their turns because they have way too much mana to work with. This is why I don't like playing big mana control decks. Much decision making. There is Spiritual Guidance, and you can't do anything about that, so they're going to let it resolve. What are the chances that Scribble mills themselves out?
Almost 0. Because they have left in their deck. So left in their deck is 3 Midnight Drearies, an Intrepid, and a Monument of Queens.
Oh,
The odds that all of those are in the bottom few cards is very low.
let's see if Scribble tries to protect the Spiritual Guidance.
With the Portal Fracture,
Yeah.
I would be a little bit surprised by that because a Princess's Plea can just answer it on Zangy's turn. Like, you do get an extra card off of it with Terraformer's Globe, but I mean, I guess you want to Event Horizon the Princess's Plea anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should Portal Fracture, counter this, Event Horizon the Princess's Plea, move on.
All right, Zane gets a chance to play out Pithbolt number 2, and that's what they're going to do right now. Townships play now. Zane is completely empty-handed. They need to top deck something really good because otherwise otherwise they just lose. Even if they do top deck something good, they still just lose.
A little bit.
I mean, Aratha's Ajani's vulnerable to Princess's Plea now at least. So that's all 4 Event Horizons.
Yeah. So Ajani being vulnerable to removal is not super relevant because you just simply do not give your opponent that window.
They make if Scribble had less permanents on board right now, Zane can counter Event Horizon by sacking all their clues.
That is a true statement.
Spells. But since Scribble actually has a board now, there goes Princess's Plea. Does Zane have some sort of big hexproof guy?
No. Like, their best draw here is going to be something like Cecilius, who can recur another threat, and then your opponent has to answer 2 things, but your opponent just does, and then you're sad.
And Desolation.
I do think that if you're in Zangy's spot here, it is correct to concede, but that's not where we're at, apparently.
That was a bad draw. And they're lose. I feel like Baron Desolation describes the state of Zane's hand right now quite well. Scribble's entire hand is answered. Does Scribble have no proactive cards in their deck or something? Or are they just getting super unlucky with the draws?
No, Scribble has very few proactive cards in their deck, period. That's not the style of control deck that Scribble likes to play. Scribble's not a big believer in actually killing your opponent.
Except when they don't actually play control decks for once.
Yeah, certainly when Scribble is on tempo or mid-range decks, but their control decks are very good at just not dying indefinitely.
Intrepid, that's a win con.
Intrepid finds a monument. That's 2 win cons. If you're Zangy, I think you can concede there.
Concede and get the game over with so that the commentators don't have to sit there while they're doing nothing. I guess the people watching won't know because all the dead air will be cut out, but there's been a lot of awkward pauses this game in the commentators because there's just not that much to talk about when this is what both players are doing. There's Monument Queens. Alright, let's see what Zane top decks. They're going to fetch before drawing to make sure to slightly reduce the chances that they draw another land.
Technically optimal.
Okay, let's see if their play gets
I mean,
rewarded.
there's nothing that they really can draw
Ooh,
that
villainy.
that feels so bad here because you have no follow-up spells.
Yeah, but
And you don't know it, but your opponent has 3 Event Horizons hand. Yeah, I think actually genuinely waiting here is correct. Um,
yeah, I agree.
it's, I think the correct move here for Scribble is to just put a counter on Monument of Queens, move to your turn, and start looking to just kill your opponent. Finding a Heart of Zadina would be really nice because I think you one-shot your opponent if you do. You actually come close to one-shotting them regardless.
They're just drawing cards with like cracking clues right now. Hey, Midnight Dreary.
Sure.
Going to okay, now they monument. Emily Egg Feather.
I think there's a good argument towards. Well, I guess with Hemley, you can only shuffle back 3 cards at most.
Midnight Dreary comes down. We're about to it's thing just
Yeah.
gives up.
Okay, so
Thank
in
God it's
terms of
over.
sideboarding, Zangy can board in 2 copies of Jack Horrific Harvester, which feels pretty good here. Can turn some of these like Wave of Decays and kill spells into duresses and probably some Lie Dreaming Not Deads. In terms of Scribble, I think we're probably going to see just a pile of Still the Pandemoniums coming in, and maybe Spell Pierces, but I'd be a little bit scared of doing that if I was Scribble.
You want Setting Sun? I don't think.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think because Zangy never presents more than like 1 or 2 threats at once.
What about G cards per
Um,
down? Does Zane have any graveyard stuff?
I mean, Zangy does, but not ones that you want to 1-for-0 yourself over.
Right.
Like, yeah, it could answer a Jack who's in graveyard or a Lies Dreaming Not Dead, but that's pretty mid, honestly. I think what we'll see is 2 copies of Jack comes in. We're going to board out 2 copies of Crucify. We're going to board out 3 copies of Wave of Decay for 3 copies of Duress. And then we're going to see a Lie Dreaming Not Dead instead of, like, I don't know, one of the more middling creatures or engines.
Sounds about right.
And yeah, for Scribble, I think we'll probably see. I don't know. I mean, Scribble's deck I think is much better suited in terms of main deck stuff. So there's not as many cards I'm excited to cut if I'm Scribble, but maybe the Portal Fractures because Zangy has a lot of like 3 and 4 mana spells that you're scared of. So Portal Fractures less good versus those in the late game. And boarding in 4 cups of Still the Pandemonium. I could also see Scribble just like saying, "Yeah, sure, I'm going to board out maybe some of the Hemleys for Still the Pandemoniums." But I think it's all going to kind of just boil down around to that. If you're Scribble, you do need to keep in your removal because Zangy will have Tabia in every opening hand. But
I think like Event Horizon is good enough of a removal spell. You don't need that much removal, right?
mhm.
Seems like the players are done boarding, so Rimbo gets a hand that has 2 cards.
Yeah, but when one of those cards is Midnight Tree, I think you are genuinely tempted to keep this. I don't think you should, but I think Scribble probably is. Zangy's hand is definitely a mulligan.
Hey,
Only 2 lands in the deck that wants to like cast 4 drops.
last time they kept okay. Now this hand's
This hand's better because you can do turn 1 Duress, turn 2 Weeping Lows, turn 3 Princess's Plea.
yeah.
So probably pitch the Nomad's Township.
Do they Tabia something in?
Oh, that's a good point. Yes, but I don't know what. I mean, maybe you get off the duress. Maybe you just plan on doing like you put a Nomad's Township on the bottom of your deck, and then you swap the duress for the Tabias, and you're just gonna like say jam, 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 like Lotus, a Weeping Lotus into Tabia into Princess's Plea. That's pretty tempting, honestly. Like I get the logic behind trying to clear the way with duress, but I think that makes sense too, especially because all the things you're most scared of Scribble having and resolving, Princess's Plea can answer.
What if you bought him a land? Or what if
Well,
you
you do.
what if you bought him
You're
and
going to need
swap?
to. No, absolutely not. You cannot keep a hand that is like 2 lands,
You have
Weeping
Weeping
Lotus, and your 4 drops.
you have
Like
Weeping
because
Lotus.
if your opponent just says, "Cool, I'm going to exile your," or if your opponent just like Cosmic Sinkholes your Weeping Lotus, you just die.
You can clear it away with the rest.
I guess okay, that does help. It feels very very much like an unnecessary risk.
So something that Zane won't do, right?
I'm not gonna say which way Zangi's gonna play this because I think both are entirely plausible.
Well, you've seen more Zane gameplay than I have, so what do you think Zane will do?
I think Zangi's like certainly risk averse, but I don't think Zangi will like avoid taking on any risk at all costs. Like Zangi doesn't like pointless risks, but Zangi certainly is willing to do some like random questionable shit.
Well, they decide to not bring in Tabia this game.
Okay, that also makes sense.
Okay, so do you snipe Still Pandemonium or Midnight Dreary?
I think you grabbed Still the Pandemonium, and like there is a punish here, but if you do Weeping Lotus, then they'll do Midnight Dreary on 2, and then you do Princess's Plea on 3 and answer the Midnight Dreary.
How does Scribble have 6 lands in hand?
Well, that would be because Scribble kept a 5-lander in a deck that runs 26 lands.
If how do they
So
draw another land off the top?
so they have 21 other lands in their deck, which means that they can draw one of those 21 lands in order to go up to 6 lands in hand.
What are the chances that Scribble keeps drawing lands?
I mean, do you want me to bust out the hypergeometric calculator? Nothing impressive has happened so far with drawing a single land here at that point in time. Like,
It's not that impressive, but it certainly doesn't make Scribble feel good. Okay,
sure.
this is slightly not slightly better, I guess, than the land.
Yeah, so so here's the question. Scribble, if Scribble is really heads up, they do Terraformer's Globe into Midnight Dreary. That way they can guarantee get the value out of Midnight Dreary. Um, the other option, which is very possible, is them just slamming the Midnight Dreary and hoping to untap with it. So we'll see. We'll see if Scribble sees the opportunity to not get got here.
I don't think Scribble needs to run out Midnight Dreary this early. They have the time to play out Terraformer's Globe first.
I agree with that.
I think Scribble is probably familiar enough with what they need to do here to recognize that. And also, like they have way too many lands in hand. They probably want to draw more cards so they have more options for next turn. Oh no, they're going to get hard punished. Hard punished.
Yeah. And this is of course always infinitely easier to think of when you like are looking at with open hands. But I can understand Scribble doing this. This is usually correcting control mirrors because your opponent can counter it. But Zangy doesn't have counter magic. Zangy has all this like board based removal. So yeah. And this feels really bad when it leaves you with basically nothing. So I would not be shocked if we see a game go similar to the last one, but the opposite direction, where just Scribble slowly drowns. But also, it's not like Zangy has a bunch of like follow up to this. Maybe we're just in for a slog.
Ocean Monastery off the top. Okay, let's see if Terraformer's Globe draws it to something that's not a land. It was taking quite some time to think. Okay, so there's Terraformer's Globe. And okay, it still is pretty good. The Scribble can play Ocean Monastery untapped to fetch an island, and then that enables other lands to start being untapped.
Scribble was a full 16% to draw those 2 lands in a row, by the way. Like, just so we have a sense of like how that is an entirely reasonable thing to have happened.
It still sucks though.
It does suck.
Now Zangy has no plays. Oh, well, there goes Terraformer's Globe.
I guess.
It might
Zangy
matter.
does get to just keep shredding life total down a little bit.
It might matter for a Cosmic Synchro mana later on.
And also just Zangy wants to drop the life total low so that you know, you can cast your Death Shadow type creatures down the line. Scribble doesn't currently have anything to answer the 7/7 that's about to appear.
What's 7/7?
So that'll be a little bit. Finish reading what Princess's Plea does.
Ah, right. It has its 3rd chapter.
And it makes a 7/7.
Maybe we can find something useful. Let's see. Midnight Dreary. Hey, that thing trumps, right? The 7/7 at trample? Oh, it does.
Yeah, but at least you deal Zangy 1 damage every time you chump block it. I mean, Scribble does have the ability to do like 2 mana Midnight Dreary, shock in a Ocean Monastery to make it to make a 1/1, but that's not worth the 2 life loss. The fact that the token is tapped does mean that if you wait a turn to do it, you won't even be able to, block 1 point damage. I think, unless there's just like a kill spell on the top, like couple cards, Scribble seems like he's in a bad spot here.
I think Scribble has to play Midnight Dreary and hold up still this turn because that plays on curve. Because otherwise, you're just doing nothing. Still hitting something means that Scribble gets to investigate, so maybe they draw something. So, actually, yeah, I guess you can still and hold up the crack the clue. I still think running out Midnight Dreary is correct here, though, because you want to get your engines down early, or at least not early, but like when you can. And this is pretty mana efficient. Means that Scribble decides to do it main phase, rather than waiting until their opponents, whatever. No, they're not. Okay, they are good. They're not going to not hold still the Pandemonium.
I guess Zangy doesn't get to attack with the Princess's Plea token yet, so Scribble realistically has like 3 combats.
They can just
live streaming
tokens.
live streaming. Well, again, the trample does make that just like worse. Live streaming not dead. 2 recur the princess's plea is kind of nasty.
Wormwood. Yeah, I think that's game. You just Wormwood, sack, Weeping Lotus, blow up Midnight Fury, and now opponent's out. Like your opponent. Actually, no. Wormwood gets countered.
Well, if Wormwood gets countered, then Lie Dreaming Not Dead can recur the Wormwood.
Did they play it in the same turn though?
Yep, because the petal tokens they have set. Oh, but they can't recast the Wormwood the same turn, but they can recur it and then like present it next turn. And then you also have the ability to Revelation the Lie Dreaming Not Dead, which is pretty bad.
And there's Wormwood. Yeah, there's Wormwood. Go to Pandemonium.
Blue token, let's go. What's up? Anyway, Lie Dreaming Not Dead, recur her.
Yeah, it does burn into Zangy's treasure pool.
I mean, that's why you have them, though.
So next turn, I guess they can Wormwood. Can they coalesce Lie Dreaming next turn?
They can, but not if they also want to cast Wormwood. But by their first main phase next turn, they're going to have access to 8 mana.
How many lands
Just ripping some board.
on this game?
Slightly above expected value.
Slightly? Okay, yeah, it's slightly, but certainly doesn't feel good to be on the receiving end. Okay, does it have trample? Yeah. Well, actually, Zangy's the set designer, right?
Yes.
So this is their fault. Okay, so anyway, Scribbl probably needs to crack Clue main phase just to try to find something to do with their mana. Like they have 3 mana left over after cracking a Clue, so like if they draw into removal for the night, that's good. If they draw into counterspell, that's not very useful. Let's see what Scribbl draws.
Get another token.
Yeah, but it's a bit slow. Spiritual Guidance. Well, I guess they can play it out, but they can't activate it in the same turn.
Yeah.
They have to wait for next turn to Ultra Monastery to activate it.
Well, they can also just like have spend 4 mana to activate it if they so choose. Honestly, Spiritual Guidance's tap down mode might be relevant because that keeps the knight from attacking.
Right. I forgot that this thing had.
Well, until Letitia just one shots it, which Scribble knows that there's a Letitia in hand, so
Letitia's probably going to blow up Midnight Fury. So Scribble probably wants to use that as no wait, they can't afford to use that as bait right now. Actually, maybe they just want to hold Spiritual Guidance in hand. Like they play out Monastery tapped. Then next
yeah,
turn
I think that makes sense.
Fetch.
But the Lie Dreaming Not Dead can also just recur a Princess's Plea or the Letitia.
That's in the future. Like right now, like so how fast can they do everything if like get through get full value from everything? Light Dreaming is 7 mana, so that takes up their entire turn. If they want, so then the turn afterwards, you can Letitia into Princess's Plea, I guess. No blocks. That's some gutsy play right there. But I guess Scribble realized that it's probably not worth trying to block the knight. Although that does reduce Zangy's clock by 1 turn because now it's like 7/7, just 7 Scribble, and then if Zany manages to clear the tokens, then they get a clean swing in and win the game. Probably doesn't want to run Light Dreaming Not Dead into 2 open mana. Like they know Scribble has possible counter spells.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Play Wormwood
You just play Letitia
and blow up Midnight
and
Fury.
then that seems defensible. Plussing to 6 is also like really kind of obnoxious for your opponent to deal with, and then if they have something scarier, you can kill that.
Right.
But yeah, okay, we're gonna see a plus to 6. Nope, that is incorrect token. You know, if Letitia was 3 mana plus 2 up to 6 loyalty makes a 6/6, that feels dangerous. That feels potentially powerful.
It's almost like a Faradia.
This rot is very bad right now. I'm actually not sure why Zangy boarded in rot.
It blows up Scribble's enchantments plus their board.
I understand the effect of the spell rot. I just don't know strategically what the advantage of boarding rot in was.
It's better than creature removal, I guess.
Yeah, but we already established other cards that were better than creature removal that could be boarded in.
Because Zangy has way too much creature removal.
That's not true if you look at the list.
They board out Enopraxias?
I think that'd be really sus.
Maybe they boarded out Dolani? No, that's also really sus. Now Scribble is finally starting to draw. They drew a Johnny. Scribble can play Alratha and activate it on the opponent's turn. It does give Zangy a clue, but maybe it's worth it. Well, no, Spiritual Guidance is just going to get blown up next turn, so I think you probably do want to get Alratha out just so that you can get 2 triggers off Spiritual Guidance at least. Is it worth it to whack Letitia down to 4 loyalty?
I don't know.
You are at 8 life, so you do
Not
survive a swing.
This is smart because this means that Scribble can now also get a proc on Zangy's turn.
Yeah. Does then you get to end step, crack the clue.
Yeah, seems like it.
What do they draw? Seeing a lot of Weeping Lotuses these games. Anyway, Zangy has a million mana now thanks to Weeping Lotuses.
And they have a disposable Weeping Lotus that they can chuck at something using
Oh,
Letty.
Cecilius, that's really good.
What does Cecilius do here?
I don't know, it's a planeswalker that accrues value.
Okay.
You can plus it and make opponent discard a card.
Yeah, they're just going to discard a land.
You don't know
Also, they
that.
have like a million cards. I think you can reasonably infer it from the fact that Scribble has not taken meaningful game actions.
They could just be holding a bunch of removal, or no wait, they could just be holding a bunch of counter spell. No wait, okay, yeah, they could be holding a bunch of top ends. That still doesn't work. Okay, yeah. So that's the last spiritual guidance trigger that's happening. So spiritual guidance managed to draw 2 cards and gain 2 life, which means that it broke even with being Sphinx's Insight. Scribble draws into Johnny Enlighten just on time.
Drew into that last turn, right? Yeah.
Okay, well I wasn't paying enough attention. Wait, so did they draw another land? Like it? That's quite unfortunate. Then he probably wants to jam the Lie Dreaming Not Dead right now because Scribble's tapped out.
And just rebuy like a Princess's Plea or something.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty good. I guess if they wait, they can minus Letitia again and get her back again, but I don't feel like that's worth it.
Yeah,
Game's
I
almost
think that'd be
over.
a little sus.
Might as well get guys onto board. And it's not like Scribble has any board wipes that they brought in. They get to plink Zangy for 1. I mean, the spirits do kill Letitia on swing, so oh, they're playing Cecilius instead. I guess just to force a discard. Not sure why
Yeah,
they didn't go for the Coalesce guy.
excuse
So
me. I mean, the answer might have just been didn't like the recursion options. Wanted, and also it's not the Coalesce guy just gets jump blocked, right? Or does Lie Dreaming Not Dead have trample?
it does not have
Yeah,
trample.
no trample. So I think I agree with this play.
At least Scribble has plenty of discard fodder with this hand. Fortunately, they can't afford to crack. Like they can't afford to play untap fetch land in order to activate Midnight Dreary. Performance Globe. Okay, so what's the play here? How does Scribble not die this turn? How many cards deep can Scribble even dig this turn? Get 2 draws, and then afterwards they have like 2 mana left over, so that's enough to draw into an Event Horizon or something and blow up the night, I guess. Deals with the immediate problem, but still leaves Cecilius alive. Like one shots a Johnny. Johnny needs to stay on spins, which means they don't get to plus a Johnny to untap stuff.
Which I don't think you mind too much. I think you'd rather just draw the card anyway.
All right, let's see if Terraformers Globe gets what Scribble need. Cosmic
Nope.
Cinco, bit late. They still have one draw.
This is. I mean, you can a Johnny to make the 4/4, and then you actually can threaten to block block the no you that doesn't oh yeah you can then threaten to block the knight which would kill Zangy.
Didn't that
So I
get
think
blown up by Letitia?
that's true. In that case, I think you were in checkmate.
You could draw into
I don't
Event
think
Horizon.
so. Use Alratha to or like crack the clue.
No, use a Johnny to draw
Yeah.
into possible Event Horizon.
Yeah, because you'd have a land play after that. Is that better than cracking the clue?
Yeah, good point. Maybe cracking clue is better.
I mean, again, I'm not sure how much it matters, but because you okay, and it also depends. Yeah, no, you want to. Yeah, it doesn't matter, but you have Hemley and out of body experience and Event Horizon is outs right now.
So yeah,
So
probably want to play a Johnny so you get something down after you try to draw your removal.
I mean, if you miss, you lose either way. So the question is like, which is more helpful if you don't miss and thus don't die immediately?
And it's a Johnny because it's a freaking planeswalker.
Yeah, although they can just kill the Johnny.
It's fine. They have to waste resources to kill a Johnny.
Okay.
So Scribble, make that. I don't think this is how you should be tapping. This is going to. Oh,
I
never mind.
mean,
You have
Terraformer's Globe.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, and you have a pool light in hand. Doesn't matter.
All right, 1 draw to get what you need. Then he bluffs having a response, as always. Hey, I think that's enough bluffing. Can you like let the thing resolve, please? We're waiting in the commentary booth.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Zangy is deciding whether to draw or not. It's not about responses.
And that's not what they need. I mean, like Zane doesn't know that Scribbles has nothing, right? So like Scribble can pretend to have something, I guess. Okay, so here you play Pool of Light and you pass and you represent a removal spell. And then like then he swings, you die, but
Yeah,
swing because you're representing like I don't know.
no. I mean, like, I can understand Scribble choosing to not. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. We go
Oh, Death
next.
Widow. Right. They can do that. They drew into Death Widow.
I mean, yeah, Letty still goes down to 1.
Right, Scribble, pass the turn and let the opponent finish you off. So we can go on to game 3. Then he needs to resolve their triggers, which takes up more time.
Such is life.
Actually, Pip, do you have a hotkey for? Did you set a hotkey for removing counters?
No.
Yeah, I set a hotkey for adding counters, but didn't set one for removing counters. So if I want to remove counters, I have to manually remove them. And that reminds me, like there is a default hotkey set for attacking a card, right?
I don't know.
At least last time I checked, I don't think there was a default hotkey, so I had to set one myself. And for those of you who play on characters and are watching at home, I
Come
rarely,
on.
yeah.
Scribble, target with the attack.
Okay, sure. That's
Deeply unserious gameplay.
at least that was more exciting than whatever was happening before that. All right, hopefully game 3 will go a bit faster. Maybe more things will be going on. Maybe players won't sit there sitting in the tank. Is there like any changes to the sideboarding? Probably not, right? Scribble's ready and Zangy's also ready, so let's see what the players get on. The Scribble's on the play. Push a buff it so it gives a token haste. I feel like a lot more decks would play a Princess's Plea if the token had haste.
I think that is a true statement, yeah.
Okay, Zangy has a good hand. That's 2 Death Widows, so that's 2 uncounterable destructions and a villainy. So that villainy has 0 cards to trigger right now, but it's going to be a villainy, so it probably will do something eventually. Also, I appreciate how villainy is in the Revolution secret layer despite not being in Revolution anymore.
Yeah, true. I definitely think swapping out one of the Death Widows for a Tabia seems good. In terms of like who I think has an edge just based on these initial hands, this is the exact hand that Scribble wants to see, especially on the play. And Zangy's hand kind of doesn't really do anything. So I would just immediately assume that Scribble's in a good spot here.
Then he decides to swap out villainy.
That makes sense to me, honestly. Like this hand has nothing that procs villainy.
This is plea, so that's Zangy. If Zangy top decked Banedrinker Kabbalist, that would have been really good. Unfortunately, Zangy did not
Yeah,
do
but
that.
can still Weeping Lotus on 2 and then
So that
either
gets
Princess
countered.
Plea or Tabia. I mean, if your Weeping Lotus is biting one of the counter spells, you're not too unhappy about that. Excuse me.
So Scribble probably Intrepids on turn 3, and Zangy gets blow up with Death Widow.
Yeah, I think that's a accurate statement.
Zangy's going to fetch before drawing this time, even though they do want their 4th land.
But also, I don't know their mana base particularly well. It's possible that they don't want to risk drawing that swamp.
True. And while that's a Hero of Oblivion that won't be active for a while, just for a fracture.
Yep.
I mean, Scribble might not slam Intrepid because they want to keep up Portal Fracture.
That's true. That's a pretty conservative line. I think it would be wrong for Scribble to do that just because Intrepid finding like Monument of Queens just puts you in such a good position here. Because that just like dodges all of Zangy's removal, except for Anapraxia's. But you're right that just holding up Portal Fracture to potentially answer something is a valid line.
There's Intrepid. So the question here is Scribble going to tap out on turn 4 to play a Johnny? Because then that gives Zangy an opportunity to play Princess's Plea. Scribble can just a Johnny plus and then hold a Portal Fracture. That'd be really good for them. Scribble's taking time deciding on what land to fetch. Like, this is a super obvious Monument of Queens, right? There's no decision making to be made here, right? They grabbed Harbzadina instead. Interesting.
That's a little yeah. I don't fully get that because it's not like they have a huge mana sink currently lined up, but
So on the other hand, Zangy might be in trouble if they don't draw their 4th land.
it's not ideal, yeah. I mean you can still like Death's Widow, a Johnny, and a Intrepid, and that puts you down to 13.
Actually, maybe Zangy just wants to take the Intrepid hit to get their life total down.
Oh, that also would work.
That lets him hold up this Widow for a Johnny if the opponent decides to plus. Or no, wait, if the opponent decides to 0.
Yeah.
No, I doubt that's happening because a Johnny plus gets Portal Factor up. I mean, if Scribble does a Johnny 0, then that leaves opportunity open for Zangy to top deck a land and then slam Princess's Plea, blow up Intrepid. Then he just takes it, right? Yeah, they just take it. Do you think like Scribble's thinking about the possible removal from Zangy. That's why they're thinking so on a Johnny, because a Johnny
They're
plus.
like, I assume it's more about this portal fracture because Zhang is about to go into the 4 mana turn, and Zhang's 4 mana turn is the scariest one for you. So I can
Oh,
understand the logic there.
is Johnny. Okay, yeah, that's the worst case scenario for Scribble. And Zangy even draws the card and uses that to get their. Wait, did
Oh,
they not Death Widow?
interesting. Why? Because they're gonna. Well, they can't Princess's Plea it.
I think they just
Huh.
forgot.
No, I don't. I don't think that's what's up. I think it's genuinely a I'm going to cast Death's Widows angle.
I feel like you should kill a Johnny when you have the ability to. Like you already have two Death Widow. I don't think you need both. No,
I mean, it's not
Tabia.
like Scribble can counter your Death's Widow trigger thing, right? So like
Yeah, but
it's inefficient in terms of mana, but it's not like that's it. That's the only bad thing.
like you probably want to blow up a Johnny before he gets a chance to start attacking lands.
Maybe, yeah.
If you plus now, then Death Widow can't kill a Johnny anymore. I do find it
Well,
funny.
if a Johnny pluses, then you can Princess's Plea it. But I guess then yeah,
And it
they'll
dies to
they
counter
can
spells again.
yeah. So kind of weird.
I think Scribble needs to help me this turn to get rid of Tabia. Like Tabia is a problem if it lives. Actually, no, Tabia can't actually permanent exile anything because Zhang has no card of that type. And if Tabia exiles Intrepid, then when Tabia dies, it comes back and Scribble grabs another land. Johnny 0. Let's see if Zhang also draws. Zhang also draws. Interesting. Thoughts on that play? Like, do you think Zhang should be drawing off of Johnny right now? Because Zhang has everything they want in hand, right?
I mean, Scribble now needs to play 2 cards or else has to discard to maximum hand size. So I actually think that's probably right.
I guess, but
So now Scribble has to like proactively cast like Hemley here, and it would have been totally possible for Scribble to just have like a very reactive hand.
I mean,
Also, actually, if sorry, if Scribble had upticked a Johnny there instead of zeroing, you can still then Tabia to answer the Johnny. You don't need to cast Princess's Plea.
right, Scribble teaming up with they have Portal Factor up, I guess.
Sure.
Nebula. Let's see how low Zhang goes because they do need to worry about Intrepid killing them. Like 2 Death Widows, I don't think that's going to be enough. Slamming the Princess's Plea into this board state feels pretty losing because it's
I
just going to
mean,
get countered.
yeah, if it's getting countered, it feels bad, but
You let your opponent draw twice with a Johnny. I don't think you can expect your opponent to not have counter spells at this point.
maybe they just drew all lands.
Actually, then you can resolve the Hero of Oblivion afterwards. So it's a 4/4 with flying that blocks Intrepid, I guess.
Well, not if we see a portal fracture off the Eminent Palace and then Lotus Barons and then Cosmic Sync calling the Herald, right?
I
But you can still get a 2 for 2 and like start to work your way through your opponent's stuff.
Scribbles is taking their time though. Like I guess they're considering whether they want to Cosmic Synchro. They're going Portal Factor. Yep. And there's Hero, and yeah, I think that's pretty much game. I don't see how Zane's getting back from this, right? Like Scribble
Mm-hmm.
taps with 2 Planeswalkers plus Intrepid, which actually just kills Zane in 3 turns. And Zane's elf stuff that like actually takes advantage of having a low life total. Didn't he play a land this turn?
Yes.
Okay, good. They didn't like make that mistake of playing a spell before playing a land to days. He still doesn't. Or Zero still doesn't actually have any good mana sinks, right? So you probably want to zero Johnny here to try to draw into more stuff. S1 to
Makes sense. You have a bunch of lands in hand, another Hemley in hand.
right. What do they draw? Midnight Dragon. Okay.
Oh, that should wrap things up pretty quickly. I mean, you don't get a token this turn because you already used Hemley. But
why is Midnight Dragon worded like that instead of just being a once per turn trigger?
um, this is like I think more commonly how WotC does it. So I think this is a reasonable move.
What more commonly before the recent sets?
I guess that's true. Even then, they still sometimes do it. But yeah, you're right. It's more common the other way.
I think Black Turtles in the tank again. Okay, they zero Giant to draw. Let's see if Zane draws this time. Okay, now they refuse to draw.
I think that's fair.
I feel like they always make the wrong choice too late.
I don't agree with that assessment.
Right? Should I? I don't think they should have
I
drawn
think
with a Johnny the first
I think it was
occasion.
reasonable to it. I think it was reasonable jump. I mean, okay, part of the thing is a Johnny looks really complicated, but it actually doesn't usually matter whether you draw or not. Like, in terms of card advantage trading off 1 for 1 with your opponent, it doesn't matter. And in terms of like, oh, sometimes if your opponent is mana constrained, it can make sense to have them draw more cards because then like maybe they can't cast them, but also then they're more likely to draw into lands. But also if they have a lot of lands, then they're more likely to draw into action. So like on both sides, it just doesn't really end up mattering a lot, I don't think. Oh no, I
Villainy.
usually default to not give my opponent cards, but I don't think it matters.
Okay, yeah, I guess. Playing's dead here, right? Like, there's no way out. Get villainy into Death Widow, but that doesn't do enough. Yeah, well, that
Excuse me.
I guess Scribble does win the long game.
I mean, it is now is generating Midnight Dreary triggers on Zangy's turn. So
And does Scribble won after a really long game.
yeah,
The timer says it's almost 1 hour and 30 minutes. Half of the time is probably just spent like tanking on decisions that don't really matter. He's furiously looking for an out right now. If they if they jam Princess's Plea, blow up Intrepid, we can try to see something from that. I'm pretty tired too right now, so there's not much for me to say. I'm sure you're also super tired, and so is Zangy.
yeah, we're just past 11 o'clock for me.
And Zangy has to actually find a way to do something while being tired. Come on, Zangy, just give up. You want to go to sleep, don't you? I don't think you're winning this. Might as well give up. Like, just jam your 2 cards into counter spells and then accept defeat. They're trying to jam Death Widow.
I mean, unfortunately, it's we have to 2 for 1 ourselves to stop this from resolving, which is a little bit awkward because it can't get hit by Portal Fracture or Cosmic. The question is whether Zangy will like play out a land and jam another Death's Widow. No,
Probably
okay,
not. Okay, well, Henley's answering that.
but can also Death's Widow to blow up the Ajani or the Intrepid,
I think they
as the
just
case may
die if
be.
they Death Widow to do that.
You're right because there's the Midnight Dreary and stuff.
If Scribble, do something. Make a game state action that Drain activates, make it 1/1. Death Widow can't actually get into combat this turn because everything Scribble has flying.
That's true.
The life thing doesn't even do anything. Please Scribble tops like something that ends the game immediately. Terraformer's Globe. Let's see what they can
Not
run
really.
into. I think you could swing before drawing with a Johnny, just in case your opponent top decks removal. Scribble, play out Terraformer's Globe. Rapid now. They forget to get the Midnight Dreary trigger.
Yes, but I don't know how much it matters.
Terraformer's Globe. I'm with Queens. Hey, another win con. No, it's not every day that we see the control deck aggroing the mid-range deck down.
I mean, yeah, I think in general this is just kind of a bit of a grindy matchup. So whoever ends up in the more dominant board state is usually going to stay in the more dominant board state,
Scribble, play out your Henley and tuck the Death Widow already.
or just tap it.
Yeah, do something. Scribble, you got the game on lock. Do something that.
I think tapping it is definitely better actually, because then you have the Hemley like healthy enough to tap another thing. But yeah, I don't know what Zangy's out is here. Like I'm thinking through it and I'm just not seeing it.
Henley's out is killing themselves with Arctic Mine.
I would disagree that that is an out.
It's out for us. It's an out because it lets Zane go to sleep. Henley Egg Feather. Okay, there we go. Oh, they do decide to tuck with it. We have to do a judge call.
Why?
Midnight Dreary. Is that the first activate ability that triggered this turn? Being activated? They attacked with Intrepid this turn, didn't they? Cool. Okay, good thing we had a judge in the booth so that we can instantly resolve a judge call instead of waiting 30 minutes for the judge call to end.
We do what we can. More people should be judges.
Judging is too hard.
Disagree.
I don't feel like doing an exam. Actually, like, what do you need to do to become an MSEM judge?
Be vaguely competent.
I have to pass the L1.
No.
I see. Do you need like any qualifications?
You should attempt to do judge things, and if you do them incorrectly, we will tell you, and that will be it. Like we have had some people who have asked to be or like attempted to be MSEM judges before, and they've given a couple incorrect rulings, and we have politely told them those are incorrect rulings, and then they stop weighing in.
I see. Oh, Zangy had something in their clipboard prepared all this time.
Yes.
Wait, they got mana screwed?
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
I also neglected to notice that. But
I'm
yeah,
tired here.
rough. Okay. Oh, that would be why Zangy didn't kill the Ajani on 3. We also didn't understand that. Yeah. Okay. Artie, what a game! What a game! What a game!
Well, let's hope this doesn't happen again. This is why I'm glad I brought Burn to this GP, so I don't have to sit through this, because either I win in the first 5 minutes or I lose. Oh, Pip already left. Okay, sure. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for commenting with me, Pip, even though you already left. Yeah, hopefully we'll see next game this GP or something.